Welcome to an exciting new episode of Talking About Stoicism. And I thought what we would do today is talk about Stoicism at the dentist. And the reason for that was that on last Monday, I spent it was close to 3 hours in a dentist chair. And it gave me a lot of time to think about Stoic principles. Now, the good news was it was the whole thing was painless, which surprised me. But that's part of what I wanted to talk about. So, to put things in context, I remember when I was younger in the Netherlands, when I had teeth drilled that would be done without any numbing or anesthetics. Because the Dutch people are a tough people, and the reasoning was always, well, when the numbing wears off, it's kind of unpleasant, so you may as well just suffer through a couple of moments of intense pain, and then, you don't have to go through that strange tingling and all that as the numbing wears off. That's certainly one way to look at things, and in some ways, I think that might be taking Stoicism a little bit too far. In any case, having had a couple of those experiences over the years, I have certainly not come to love the dentist. I wouldn't say I'm phobic of the dentist. I don't even think I'm really scared of the dentist. I know it's just a necessary evil. So then what can you do, and how does all this work? Well, for me, there are a couple of things that I have noticed in my thinking about dentists. But obviously, this extends to all kinds of painful procedures, right? It's not just dentistry. The first thing I would say is I practice the premeditatio malorum, the anticipating the worst thing that could possibly happen, and that's a very Stoic exercise, right? I went into that appointment thinking, well, I know this is going to be a larger thing. I'm probably going to be experiencing some pain. Some of it might be fairly intense. And by doing so, I prepared myself for the worst. And I found that this is a very good context to do that in. If you are prepared that things are going to be painful, are going to hurt, are going to be unpleasant, probably as unpleasant as they can be, and then it turns out, as it did in this particular case, that it was actually not painful, then there is a sense of relief, right? You've prepared yourself for the worst, so given that anything that can or will happen is statistically unlikely to be the worst, that's a win, right? Then whatever happens is not as bad as you thought it was, and that was certainly the case here. So that helped. Another thing that I've found in the past is when I've had things done, is that the thought of some things are within your control, other things are not within your control, can be very beneficial as well. After all, some things just happen. There's nothing to be done. It will happen. And as soon as our dental friends bring out all their gear and start to do all sorts of things, there isn't that much you can do about it unless you want to walk out. But then, of course, the consequences down the line of not taking care of whatever problem you have might exacerbate, might become worse, and then that's not great either. So then that is what helps. It's not always fully within your control. And some things are. You could always ask, hey, I know I'm still a little sensitive. Could you give me more numbing stuff or whatever, right? I just prefer to say numbing because I struggle with pronouncing not so much anesthetic, but anesthetizing typically trips me up. Anyway, having said that, so that's another consideration. Is the current situation within your control? Or is it not within your control? And sometimes it's simply not within your control. And then I have found that thinking about, okay, well, right now this is fairly painful, but it will end, right? Try to keep breathing and try to focus on this will end. That can be beneficial as well. So sometimes that is something that I find can help as well. If it is not fully within my control, then it is almost certainly going to end. Very few things are eternal, after all, right? So that in the past I have felt useful to put things in context as well. And then another thing that I found helpful I've typically found helpful is humor. Humor, I find, is a really helpful tool to make things more bearable. And I have found particularly the dentist and his assistant that I had both had a sense of humor and were also kind of joking. And I found myself, even though I could not say much because I had all the stuff in my mouth, right? But even though I could not say much, I did find myself mentally making jokes about things that they said or that were happening. And that is a great way to break tension and to get your mind out of a certain place. And I found that is another generally useful tool in complicated situations, to have that sense of humor, try to maintain that, and try to make some jokes about things that are happening. I find that can help a lot. So that too, and I thought it was interesting because even before the treatment started, when I could still talk, I was kind of joking around a bit with the two of them, and that also kind of set the mood. And they commented, they actually commented on how relaxed I was, even though I was a bit nervous, but for myself, trying to make some jokes made things more relaxed. And I think that is another thing it's a powerful thing, powerful tool to use and not forget about in those kinds of contexts. And one final thing that I did that I have also used in the past when procedures were more painful, but that I find very helpful, is I try to do the view from above, as the Stoics would say, right? Which is the sort of mental exercise where you try to picture yourself looking down on yourself and then just going up. And then you see the room you're in, and then the house, the building you're in, the city you're in, and then whatever it is, province, state, wherever you are, up, your country, the whole continent. Like you keep going up. And one advantage of that particular exercise I've found is that it puts things in perspective. And it's strange how effective that is, because it sounds like a very simple thing to do, but that perspective really helps. And it's strange because usually those kinds of things don't do much for me, but I found that helps. And so that's certainly something I have done. And a slight variation on that is that I try to picture specific locations that I like, but in great detail. So for example, okay, here is the house of my godmother in Austria, and I exit the door and I walk down the road, and I keep going. There's a little bridge, and I keep going, and then I walk into a meadow, and I sort of go down, and then there's a forest, and I walk into the little forest, and like those kinds of things. That kind of visualization I have also found helps, because it takes your mind off of where you are at that moment and what is happening. And if someone is drilling into your teeth, likely that you will still feel something, but it is a distraction. And all these tools together I have found to be quite helpful. So I just hope this video has been of some interest. I tried to make it as structured as I could and not ramble, which is always a challenge. But I think these are tools that you can use in multiple situations that can potentially help you get through a challenging situation. In this case, physically complicated. And that's it. So let me know. Let me know how you survived the dentist. And that's all there's to it. Let me know what you think of maybe these kinds of techniques. And that's all there's to it. I hope this was useful, and I will gladly see you later. Bye.